Something is dying underneath the Pacific Ocean right now, and most people have absolutely no idea it's happening. The Pacific Dead Zone is expanding fast, and what scientists found beneath the waves recently is the kind of thing that should be everywhere but somehow isn't. A silent collapse, that's what they're calling it, and the word silent is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, because this isn't quiet at all if you actually look at the data. So here's what I want to ask you before we go any further. Drop a comment below and tell me, did you even know dead zones existed in the ocean before this? Because honestly, when I first went deep on this, I felt like I'd missed something obvious that had been hiding in plain sight the whole time. There are parts of the Pacific Ocean right now where fish can't breathe. Not because of pollution in the way most people picture it, not because of trash or oil spills, but because the oxygen is just gone. These zones, scientists call them hypoxic zones or oxygen minimum zones. They've been quietly spreading since the 1960s, and the rate is picking up in a way that's hard to ignore once you see the numbers. The Oregon and Washington coastline has been watching this happen up close for years. Marine biologists pulling data from those waters started noticing something off in the early 2000s, dead crabs washing up on shore, fish behaving strangely near the surface, coral that had no business dying just dying. And what they traced it back to was the oxygen levels in deep water dropping below the threshold where most marine life can survive. Below 2 milligrams per liter, things start suffocating, and some of these zones are registering even lower than that now. If you found this video useful so far, hit that like button, because what's coming next is where this gets genuinely unsettling. Here's the part nobody explains properly though. The dead zone isn't just a patch of bad water sitting still somewhere. It moves, it expands upward toward the surface as it grows, and it pushes marine ecosystems into smaller and smaller bands of survivable water. Picture every fish, every crab, every living thing that needs oxygen getting squeezed into a shrinking layer near the surface while the dead water rises beneath them. That compression alone causes die-offs even before oxygen completely runs out, because the crowding and the stress break down entire food chains from the bottom up. And here's where the warming part connects. Warmer water holds less dissolved oxygen, that's just basic physics, and the Pacific has been warming consistently. So as surface temperatures rise, the ocean's ability to absorb and distribute oxygen drops, and the deep water that was already oxygen poor gets even worse. NOAA researchers tracking this over decades have found the oxygen minimum zones in the Pacific expanded significantly through the latter half of the 20th century, and the expansion didn't slow down, it accelerated. What makes this a silent collapse specifically is the depth at which it starts. Most of this is happening hundreds of meters below the surface where no one is looking, no cameras, no casual observation, nothing. By the time the effects become visible, by the time the dead crabs are on the beach and the fish are gasping near the surface, the collapse below has already been building for years. That's the part that genuinely gets to me, because it means we're always seeing the aftermath, not the cause, and that gap in time makes it dangerously easy to underestimate. Scientists at institutions including Scripps Institution of Oceanography have been tracking dissolved oxygen across the Pacific, and what they've documented is a measurable, consistent, years-long downward trend in oxygen levels across large stretches of deep water. This isn't a one-season anomaly or a localized problem, it's a basin-wide shift that's been building quietly while attention went elsewhere. The marine food web depends on these deep oxygen-rich zones in ways that ripple all the way up. Zooplankton migrate vertically through the water column every day, up toward the surface at night, back down into cooler water during the day, and that migration pattern is being disrupted because the deep water they retreat to is becoming uninhabitable. When zooplankton patterns break down, everything that eats them breaks down too, and that chain goes all the way up to the fish that millions of people depend on for food. There's a real economic dimension here that doesn't get discussed alongside the environmental one. Pacific fisheries are worth billions annually, and the communities built around them aren't abstract statistics, they're real livelihoods tied directly to ecosystem health. When oxygen levels drop and fish populations shift or collapse, the impact lands on actual people almost immediately. What I keep coming back to is the word silent. Because the ocean doesn't send press releases and dead zones don't trend on social media, and so this thing that has been building for decades, documented by scientists, measurable in the data, just keeps expanding while most people have never heard of it. That gap between what the research shows and what the public knows is its own kind of problem. The Pacific Dead Zone is not a future threat. It's a present one. It's expanding now, the collapse beneath those waves is already underway, and the science on this has been clear for longer than most people realize.